All right, welcome to Real Estate Success. I'm your host, Mena Badros, here today with Michael Reese. Michael, great to have you here
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
for sure. Michael, before we get into real estate stuff, I'd love for people to get to know who you are. So, without mentioning any professional accomplishments, can you tell people who is Michael Reese?
Man, I would say I am a father, an investor, a digital marketer, and a seeker of finding a better way.
Awesome, I love that. Um, as far as real estate, you've done a lot of stuff, and we might not have time to get into all of that here today. And really, what I want to focus on is kind of talking about life by strategy. But before we get into that, can you just take us really briefly into your real estate journey? Like, how did you get started, and the evolution of from the time you got started to where you are now?
Man, I got into real estate really looking for a better way. I think everything that I've done has always been looking for a better way to have more time, a better way to increase my personal earnings, income potential. Um, a better way to provide for my family, just looking for a better way. So, at the end of the day, I got into real estate looking for that and ultimately found a community where I was able to really um, hone my skills as a marketer. A great marketer can really look at any product, any professional service. Marketing is, I would say there's you got to market a vision to a team, right? You got to be able to sell a vision. You got to be able to get attention, whether it's building a city, getting people to move to your city, getting people to move to your state. So marketing has always been something, maybe a form of persuasion, influence, that having to influence my mom to let my friends stay the night, right? Knowing that I want them to stay the night this Friday, and having the awareness to maybe get all of my chores done and tidy things up, on Tuesday and Wednesday, so that I knew when I made that offer or that call to action, if you will, that I had the probability of persuading my mom. So, I was always a marketer, always down to, when I wanted a paper out and there was no paper routes available in my neighborhood, how I still was able to persuade my mom and the guy to give me one in the two neighborhoods over. Right. And so it's, it's the ability to communicate and articulate, what it is that you're wanting to in an effective way that you influence and persuade people. So real estate was just my platform to hone that skill. And it's been a blessing in that, because one of my mentors, who was a great marketer, learned, or I should say taught me, the principles over time. I didn't always know what I was doing. I was unconsciously incompetent. Um, but looking back now, I know why I was able to get that person to order a dessert when I was a waiter, right? Just little things like that, and understanding, those principles are good, especially when it's being an entrepreneur.
On the marketing front, what did you intentionally do as an adult or as a professional to kind of hone your marketing skills and become a better marketer?
Well, I think the first thing that I did was I had awareness of what it really was. I shared a common belief, and until I shared that common belief, I wasn't a good marketer. But at some point, I realized, through good times or bad times, when it came down to my personal business, that if I had a problem, it was a marketing problem, right? If cash was tight, if I couldn't, if I needed to work a weekend I didn't want to work, if I was on the phone all day with people that an activity I didn't want to do but I had to do, meaning I had to sell, it was all a symptom of not understanding marketing. And so, I would say that, for me, understanding those principles, and understanding the principles, you look at Karate Kid and they're like wax on, wax off, and then you wax on, wax off, and then if you don't know what you're doing, right, it's like they're trying to get you to do this repetition for, at the end of the movie, you instinctively make this move, that was really, a self-defense move or something to that nature. And so, I heard it explained in an interesting way. But if you follow, a lot of people, they go out and I think there's a problem in today's real estate industry, which is too much training, right?
Mm,
Like you can go get trained on so much
right.
expired, FISBOs, neighborhood data. There's literally so many things that you can go get trained on that it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's
And that is,
overwhelming.
yeah, it's a problem. And so, when you understand the principles, you can go into those things and make a decision more effectively, right? You can make a decision on, well, why this is probably not a good idea and why this might be a better idea. You can see those things. And so for me, what I always did, I had a friend who called me up one day, and I hadn't spoken to him in years. And he was like, man, I haven't spoken to you in a couple of years. And he's telling me his story. He tells me he had gotten cancer and he won, but for a long time, for months and months and months, he didn't think that he was going to live. And I said, well, what changed? And he said, man, I stopped listening to the doctors and I started listening to the survivors.
Wow.
And that was interesting because what he was basically saying, as he was going to the doctors, he was getting all these different points of views when he went to the survivors to find out what they did. And if you look at real estate agents and the people that have what you want, labeling them as a survivor, somebody who made it through the gauntlet, made it through
Right.
the tops, the bottoms, the mistakes, overcame all those things and was able to build a business. I will tell you at that point, if you were to take away their marketing and say, let me look at where all your closings are coming from. You're no longer able to do this. You're no longer able to do this. You're no longer allowed to do this. They would feel like you took their business away. An example would be like a top agent that maybe ascends to the top and unlocks an ISA and unlocks, doing radio, and maybe they're even doing billboards. And from somebody at the bottom, you're looking up like, how do they do all this stuff? But in their mind, they've learned how to invest a nickel or a dime into their business. It's called ROAS, return on ad spend. They've learned how to invest in their business in such a way that their business is probably the best place they could invest their money. They have control, they know the numbers, and they look at their business differently. And so most people look at marketing as an expense. And great marketing is the best investment.
Mm, I love that. Love that. Um, let's shift gears for a little bit. One of the things you talk about a lot is life by strategy. And I always believe that anybody has the power to create the life that they want. Um, what does life by strategy mean to you?
Well, I mean, you have the word life. So it's what life means to you, right? Life means something to somebody else. Like, whether it's good or bad, some people, their entire life is like baseball. Other
Mm,
entire life is their family,
right.
right? Like that's like the main thing, um, that's their main driver. And strategy is really a way that you're going to accomplish something, where you're taking all of the things that are at your disposal, resources, time, everything, and you're organizing it in a way to accomplish something. And so, I would say that at the core, life by strategy is just, it's really just having a better way, a plan. So let me give you an example. And sometimes when I give examples, I like to use um, the adverse, right? And so, if strategy is really a plan of action, then what is the plan of action for your life? But based upon your definition. So if the thing that gives you most fulfillment are these 3 to 5 things, the most, like, this is where you're happiest, but you're sacrificing those things. The question is why do you have to? Right? There's, if you look at some of the people like Mr. Beast, there's a video out there of Mr. Beast.
Right.
and it's his very first YouTube video. And he found a way to live his life, and he's very passionate, he's very focused. I mean, that's all he wants to do. He has a burning desire to produce YouTube videos for whatever reason. And that he made the decision that that's how he was going to live his life. And because he made that decision and that total commitment, he was able to produce a lifestyle where he's able to do what he loves while living his life. And the argument there is, if you really are able to do that, it's kind of a blessing and a curse, because you have no more weekends, because there's no such thing as a weekend. For weekends, for most people, are the place where they become weak, right? A weekend is where they become weak. And what I mean by that, it's where they get to, they finally get to do the things that they love and stop doing the things that they hate. And life by strategy is not living within that institutional mindset of there's such thing as a Monday and a Saturday. It's, what if you could live your perfect life every day? What would that look like? And how do you be intentional? And how do you design a plan in order to have a strategy, right? So people say life by design. If you look up the word strategy, it's designing a plan. Strategy is the highest level principle of that design, because you can design a bad plan. Strategy is implying that you're trying to organize everything that you have and taking other elements into account. So if you look at when I came up with life by strategy, I just wrote down life by design. I have it saved on my computer, worked on it for about a year. And one day I walked over to the word and I marked it through and I put strategy. And I was like, this ain't no design. A design doesn't imply, well, how much money do you have? Right? Like a design doesn't imply what are the limitations? What are your strengths? What are your opportunities? What are your weaknesses? What are all the resources? What are the previous lessons learned? What are the, a design is I think more lives in just, the outcome versus the steps that you're going to do in order to get there.
Right. Man, so many things I want to ask, to unpack that there. But let me ask, how did that come into your life? The concept of lifestyle by strategy. How did that come into your life, or when did you become intentional about that?
I mean, it first came into my life when a friend of mine challenged me to write down my perfect day. That's when it came into my life. And, at that time, I would say it was probably 2009. And I'll remember when when I was doing mine, they were doing theirs. And they wrote down, your perfect day. Would you, like in mine, I remember I'd wake up and at some point in my day, I'd actually have a smoothie, right? Or I'd have a cold pressed juice. I would do these certain things, but in his perfect day, he actually had somebody that was doing that, meaning he had somebody who made him a smoothie. He had someone who cooked and provided dinner. And, I remember him saying, now that you have your perfect day, what would that cost you per day? Right? Like if you were to do all of these
Great question.
things, what would that cost you per day? And it was like, and he made you break down that expense by the day. And he looked at me and asked me a question, and I just said, he was just kind of challenging my thinking, and it was specifically around the chef. And he said, so would you cook it? Do you love cooking, or would you be doing something different and have some? I was like, shoot, I'd have someone else make it. And he was like, well, put that down there. And that was just like, well, I'm never going to have like a chef or anything. And last summer when my family came, we had they came, I live in Puerto Rico, and they were there for the summer. And, when they came, we had, two people, both of them were chefs. And, the truth is that they had to kind of press me to use them. Like I didn't, like they would ask me every day if I wanted anything there. I'd be like, nah, not really. They had to press me. So, even right now, I have somebody who comes to the house, they get here about 10, they definitely cook dinner if they cook every day. When my kids get home, they cook dinner and all that sort of stuff. But I don't use them, and so I think it evolves. And the reason I share that is because more of my perfect day now has more to do with probably health. Health is more of a priority in my perfect day. Now, I think you can make the argument that cooking is part of health. But I've been fasting, and so it's just your goals change, things change. I would say in my perfect day today that was different than back then is I would have a gym at my house, and I wouldn't have to leave the home to go to the gym, right? Like it'd be the perfect gym.
Right.
And it would have a cold plunge, a dry sauna. I would have a magnetic blanket, infrared light, all of these, longevity things that I could cycle through. I'd have a very specific water filter that helped with, all sorts of health benefits, right? I would, in my perfect day, I'd have all those things at my exposure. But here's what I found out. In my perfect day, my sons would be working out with me, right? My wife would be working out, right? It wouldn't be just me. I bought a membership, and I went to take my son, and I bought a very nice home gym before I moved to Puerto Rico, and I sold it. And then back then, my sons would be in there every day when I'd work out. And then now, I go to a regular gym. And so in my perfect day, man, I would have the perfect home gym. But the benefits of, a sauna, the benefits of cold plunge, all of those things would be, a part of it.
Right. That makes sense. And now you said it evolves, and that's a great point. How often or how frequent do you reevaluate or reset kind of your strategy or your plan?
So I always have a North Star. I would say that this is something that I do unconsciously, but I think that, people underestimate what they can do in a year, or overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade.
I
And
love
so
that.
when I read Steve Jobs' biography, he said that in your life, you have time to do 3 great things. And so, I feel like I'm on my third, right? And for me, so I think you're always adjusting your North Star. There's a book called Beyond Entrepreneurship by James Collins, who's Jim Collins, who wrote the book, How the Mighty Fall, Great by Choice, Built to Last, Jim Collins, Good to Great. And in that, there's a book, Stacking the Deck. I'm not recommending those books. I can sum up, what I took for them based upon this question, which is in that book, a company will achieve its vision. And at some point it will have to it'll achieve its mission. And at some point it will have to set another kind of 10-year mission
Right.
towards the vision. The vision is the North Star that you never get to, like the direction you're going, right? And so I always know the direction that I'm headed, but the mission changes. And so for me, right now it's multifamily, right? I believe, I even changed my affirmations. That's not a joke. My I am statements. I went back to all, the things. I don't have limiting beliefs like I did on day one today in marketing, right? In the beginning, I was like, $227. That's half a car payment, right? Like I used to have limiting beliefs. Now, it's not that way. In multifamily, I'm going through that same process. I'm just doing it with a lot higher level of awareness, so I know that year one is never going to be that. I believe that in year 3, I can do more than I did in year 1 and 2. And in year 6, I can do more than I did in years 1 through 6. Right. I saved more money in year 6 than I did, let's say last year than I did 6 years ago in all 6 years. Right. Or I invested more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense.
And so when you have that mindset going through that process, my process of learning multifamily is I'm not tied to like today. I'm not motivated by today. I'm more I believe it's what skill do you have to acquire to get there. So like when you're doing your life by strategy, one of the things that I always do is I say, what am I willing to sacrifice and what skills am I going to have to acquire? And this is again for the next mission. And at step one, um, I'm thinking about it just like in real estate. Step one in real estate, you got to acquire the skill,
Right.
and then after, you got to acquire sales skills. You have to acquire the knowledge of contracts. So the first year is really dedicated to learning. And so in my hypothesis or my investment thesis is that at some point there's going to be a trigger where we're going to have an 18-month to 2-year run where multifamily is going to be a very amazing opportunity. Well, for me, I want to build passive, I want to build assets, I want to build wealth, even if the reason that I want to do it is so that I could go, drill water in Africa for people. Whatever my reason is, doesn't matter. Um, you know, you have to have kind of what you want to do, and then what is the mechanism that you're going to do it, and what are your skills. And so one of the things that I like in my life by strategy on the very top, it says I like to work project based. And so the reason I like to work project based is I like to work on teams, but I don't want to be married to a team for 10 years. So like if you're on my team and we invest in an apartment together and you're a part of that, I don't have to include you on the next one. Right? I can over time build the best team. And projects have an end date. So if for some reason something happens, I can finish out that project and play red light, green light with my time and say, hey guys, listen, this summer we're not going to be doing anything. In fact, I'm taking my family here, or I'm taking my dad, my mom, whatever it is. I got this thing that I'm doing. And so this project, I'm completing it, and I'm not going to be starting another project till August. Same thing with the funnel. I like to work project based. It got to define start time, it got to define end, and it allows me to harness my weakness, which is I only have one speed. If you don't like this one, you damn sure won't like the other one, because I'm either super fast, no brakes, or I'm slow. One of the two, I don't have in between, right? And so, having the ability to pause those, otherwise I just stay pedal to the metal. So I can take on a project based upon the season, based upon the year, based upon a lot of elements. I can play all out 100% and communicate to the people around me, hey, listen, between now and June, this is what I'm doing, right? And I can get the fulfillment, and not feel like I'm contributing. I can make a promise I can keep and get it across the finish line. So that's an example of me now.
Right.
Beforehand, what I hate is not being able to complete a project. I was on a team where the team never changed, but the project did. And the team would start on one project and then decide when things got really, really, really tough instead of becoming more strategic. And in sometimes it was necessary, by the way, but there were some times where maybe it wasn't. And, I would be on this project, and technically to be a good team player, I would need to leave that based upon the team, because the overall goal of the team was not that project. The goal was bigger, and that project was a means to the goal. And so, those are just things where, I started stuff that I thought I wanted to be able to finish, and I really felt like we were right there on the finish line, 3 feet from gold. I think we were about to crack the code, have the breakthrough, and the team couldn't muster up the energy, the effort, or the resourcefulness to get it to the end zone. And so whenever you can't get to a vision, a lot of the times people just lower the vision. And I don't like to do that. I like to say, you know what I do? Whatever it takes. Yeah. But again, that's in a life by strategy, you have to have a shutdown point too. And so I do believe that sometimes those things are necessary, but they're only necessary to learn, okay, we're shutting this down. Here's what I learned, and here's how I'm going to modify my life by strategy so I have the filters to never do that again.
Right. I'm curious. A point you made earlier that you have the opportunity to do three great things, and you said you're on your third one. Curious what those first two were, if you don't mind sharing.
Well, I mean, I think it was building a real estate business, but it was really learning how to build a business was my first one.
Okay.
Um, and then it was that. So the first one was learning how to build a business. And then I would say the second one was having basically a 10-year run to teach other people how to build their business. So, for 10 years, from 2002 to 2012, I actively had a real estate business. In 2006, I got into really the affiliate marketing. And 3 years later, after 2008, in 2006, I was a big affiliate marketer. In 2008, we got hit. And as a part of my relationship with the vendors that I marketed for, I started coaching the agents just to try to help the churn. And that led us to 2011 when we did our first CGS, 2012 when we launched NAEA, before we were Kinder Reese Real Estate Partners. But over that time, man, it was a really good run. I learned things about business that real estate didn't allow me to have. It's different to learn how to go from a bootstrap solopreneur to being in personal production, to getting out of production, to at some point, I had to learn how to have what we called with separate business units, separate P&Ls, and have leaders of those businesses, but have a culture and core values that allowed me to manage and lead people and to spend time on the vision and stuff like that. And that was good because, each run, all of those things are going to be applicable to multifamily. There's nothing that I've said that I learned. There's going to be skills that I acquired in real estate. There's going to be skills that I acquired in building a coaching and training company that will be 100% necessary in building the multifamily. And again, like I said, when I say multifamily, what I'm really saying is, I ultimately want to help people how to get their time back, and I like creating opportunity. When I saw multifamily, I saw an opportunity where I could help more people. You don't have to be a real estate professional selling residential real estate in order to learn how to invest in multifamily. You can be a dentist, you can be a school teacher. You could have a myriad of different skill sets from previous occupations that make you valuable, or you can just be a person that learns how to find deals. Or you can be a GP, a general partner, a limited partner. You can be a KP, a key principal on a deal. And all of those things are really apartments, for instance, are really just businesses. That's what they are. They're businesses. You look at the NOI, you look at the cap rate, you determine what the CapEx is going to be. It's like evaluating an investment.
Exactly.
And, and so for me, I think I'm getting more passionate about taking that entrepreneur and business owner that I helped in my second 10 years. And now I'm here saying, hey guys, listen, I've helped you. Now you have a business. Now what do you do? And I'd like to say that there's more than one way. There's certainly many different ways that you can invest. I just like, I like real estate.
Right. Now, as far as multifamily investing, a real quick question: are you doing that actively? Are you doing that through syndications, or what's kind of your strategy on that?
Well, it's a great question. I think that there's what there's what I'm currently doing, right? So I started with being an LP. Then it's, to answer your question, syndication, organizing groups of people to take down assets and participating at different levels in that opportunity.
Okay. Awesome. I want to ask you a few questions about life price strategy before we have to wrap up here. Time is flying by. Um, there's some people that might be listening and saying, I can't attain this kind of life, or my the way my life is set up, right, doesn't allow me to attain that. What are some of the limiting beliefs that you've seen and that people should try to curb when it comes to kind of creating that life price strategy?
I like, listen, man, I got out of the business of trying to make people believe.
Hmm.
I used to be in that business. Think about that. It's a good business, by the way. I'm just not in that business because what I would tell that individual though is, go read the book Loving What Is. And the book Loving What Is one of the best books on mindset. Um, Go to a Tony Robbins event. What they're looking for is they got to increase their belief level long enough for them to have an experience.
Hmm.
And it's hard to dream when you're trying to survive. And so I think that you have to go out there and the answer for them is they need to consume content until their beliefs change. So in my opinion, a person who's struggling that says they can't live their life, they have a mindset problem. And the only way to take, imagine if I had a pitcher of water and I took dirt and I put it in there, and then I took a water hose and I stuck it in and I stirred the pitcher up and it's dirty water. And I took the water hose of clean water and I put it in the pitcher and turned it on full blast. Eventually that water would be clean. You just have to pour in positive things so that you can reorganize the things that are limiting you. And being that water hose for somebody is it's the same amount of work. I'd rather take a bucket of water than have to be a water hose constantly turned on, just because I only have so much energy. And it's a lot easier for me to find a person here and take them here than it is to get someone to here. Getting
Gotcha.
that's like it's like a rocket to get off the ground. Like if you saw a big rocket and it's like it's trying to get momentum, it's like trying to escape velocity, trying to and then it starts speeding up. You got to be able to lift off. You can't. The gate of the mind can only be open from the inside, not the outside.
Right.
So they gotta work on their mindset. And the way to do that, I mean, you can, I would say again, go find the survivors. Go find what changed their mind. Ask the right question. Hey man, listen, what was the one book that had the, changed your complete mindset paradigm shift? They're going to tell you the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. They're going to tell you Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. You'll probably get a couple, Rich Dad, Poor Dads. But if you ask the right question, you'll have people like me that tell you, Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, or you might have somebody who tells you the Surrender Experiment. You'll have these kind of blanket ones but it's that, well, is there one more? It's that one more that really, that you might find a gem, right? And everybody's life is different. There was a time where Who Moved My Cheese was the book I needed, right? In 2005, that was the book I needed.
Yeah.
Um, but that's a parable that's just talking about, man, get used to things changing. Some people, like they're so unconsciously reluctant to change. And so, just I would say learn the principles, learn mindset, and hyper consume. Consume who? I mean, you can go with the timeless, Jim Rohn. I think you can never, consume too much Jim Rohn. You can go with the Darren Hardy, who's kind of followed in his footsteps to some degree, or you can go straight to the Tony Robbins buffet, which is going to be, Awaken the Giant Within. There, I think he has one like Unleash Your Power,
Right.
but those individuals have to have the desire to do it. You can't do it for them, and you're never going to help that person if they don't consume. So the real question for them is, the principle is your mindset is and your belief systems are based upon what you currently know and everything you've put into your mind up to this point. Why don't we start putting some more stuff in and think and see if we still believe those things? Let's get some different resources, get some different perspectives, get some differences of opinion, maybe from, people who actually have the results that I'm looking for. And a lot of the times if you do that, I mean, listen, people believe in Santa Claus, but they eventually don't. So, you know, it's definitely doable.
Yeah. So if someone has that belief and that burning desire, but kind of doesn't know what steps then to take, what steps should they then take?
So that's a great question. I'll give you those steps. The 8 steps are you have to have step one, awareness. You're unconscious and incompetent, you don't know. Then you have to have desire, which you just said to me, if they have the desire. So awareness, if I don't know about a place even existing, I've never heard of Bali, I can't have desire to go there. Right. But if I've never heard and really understood marketing, I can't have desire to study it. So you have to have awareness, then you have to have desire. Once you have desire, you have to seek, ask, receive, take action, persist, and have accountability. So it's awareness, desire, seek. You have to seek people, look for content. You got to ask. You got to ask a bunch of questions. Change your questions, change your life, right? You have to receive. You have to be a student. You have to be coachable. When they tell you something, you got to assume you're wrong and try to understand, right? Seek to understand. Assume that they have positive intent. Think maybe they're right and maybe you're wrong. So you got to receive. You got to then take action, and you have to have persistence and accountability. So those are the steps that you have to follow once you have desire.
Awesome. I love it. Well, Michael, thank you so much, man. I am receiving this information and definitely will listen to it again, take notes, and I suggest everybody else to do so. Thank you so much, Michael, once again. I know you have to go, but this was great. And hopefully we'll do it again.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.